Recorded live in Baku, Western Australia, the hoon capital of the world. This is Talkin' Power.
Gap is what happens when you hold to the floor and crush the man next to you. There's space in between your back lumbar and your front lumbar. We in the South we refer to it as the gap band.
Well, I think Formula One is for grown-ups.
So, what about the sideways? You've got a race in your own lane. Now he's on the grass, he brings it back. That's a great driving there.
Torque and Power, your motoring and motorsport podcast.
All right, it's the Talk and Power podcast. We are up to episode 29. I am Nick DiCembra and I am with Simon Gonzo Travellini. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good. How's your week?
Oh, it's been awesome, actually.
Has
been
it?
Really good, yeah.
That's great.
It's always good. I've got a bit of a spring in my step whenever your footy team has a win over the local.
God, really?
Down south.
You know what? I did not have a clue who won the Derby.
Oh, I'll tell you, the Eagles.
Well, it's pretty obvious. You just gave it away.
Yeah.
Just gave it away.
Yeah, so
it's
no,
a double whammy for the Dockers, harassment and losing the inaugural
Optus Stadium, Perth Stadium.
Derby. Derby.
Yep, but that's all right. They'll bounce back, the Dockers. They'll be right.
So the big controversy was the medal. Did they give...
Yeah, so this year, as coincidence would have it, it was handed out to Shannon Hearn and to Lockie Neal. So,
double header.
The votes were drawn. And for those watching the video, I'm doing inverted commas with my fingers.
When you say they were drawn, did it involve a pen?
Yeah. Well, so the committee couldn't split the two, so it was split either way.
Did they have a count back?
I'm not sure. And you know what? At the end of the day, rumour has it that Ross Glynn did in Pixar once. If he doesn't agree with it, he changes his mind anyway. So anyway, good on Ross.
All right. So speaking of rumours, the Motorplex.
Yes.
Oh, big rumours.
Oh, yeah.
Big rumours. So the latest that I've heard, and I can't disclose my sources.
Yep.
Right,
No, you're
using
protected
my
by
journalistic privilege.
You're protected by your journalist privileges.
Anyway, so the word is that they have a serious offer on the table, but the problem is there's so many conditions associated with doing the deal. Like from the government's part, they've said these are the conditions that you need to meet, that the entity, let's call it an entity, has said, nah, if we buy it, we want to do what we want.
Yep.
Right? Now, what they want to do, okay, is they want to get rid of the speedway track.
Yep.
Okay, they want to level that. They want to level part of that hill because apparently it's quite a large lot of land, and they want to put a circuit track in.
I think you mentioned this in the last podcast.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Well,
Oh,
the Wanneroo Times.
He's come armed with...
This is an exceptional source of information.
This is a real hands-on visual podcast. My apologies for those who are traditional podcast listeners.
So the thing was, whether I mentioned it or not, that the state government, and I want to put the challenge out here. I'm going to call out Mark McGowan. I'm calling out Mark McGowan because if you shut the Motorplex, right, as you have stated behind closed doors, right, so it's going to run one more season.
Yep.
So we're going to finish this one up one more after this. If no one takes it up with all the conditions associated with it, they're shutting the doors because, the state government can't afford it. All the other bullshit these idiots are paying for, they can't afford to keep that place open. That place can actually make money.
That's right. Yep.
Anyway, so I'm calling him out. I'm going to move to Kwinana or get an office in Kwinana. I'm going to run against him in the next election. So everyone out there, you got to back the Gons, Rockingham, Kwinana. It's all the same. It's all the same. Right, because I reckon there's more bogans down there that want to keep the Motorplex open, okay, than anywhere else.
For sure, yeah.
So
He's
McGowan,
in real jeopardy of losing his seat, if that's the case.
I reckon he would be. But I mean, there's all these goody two-shoes as well that reckon that whatever, it's bad.
Safety bay.
safety bay.
Down that way.
I think even down in there's a section that runs right along the coast of Rockingham.
Very, very nice section.
Yeah, very expensive now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so getting back to this, the WA Sporting. This is obviously credible because it's the Wanneroo Times, and everyone knows that everything that comes out of Wanneroo is credible.
Oh, that's News Limited. So no, we take their word for. We take it with a bit of authority.
With a bit of
Yeah, it's a News Limited.
Salt.
What's the name? Rupert owns that.
Rupert. So, the WA Sporting Car Club says a longer lease for the Wanneroo Raceway site will enable it to invest in upgrades as it gears up to celebrate its 50th anniversary. Okay, so they're suggesting, right, that they're going to get this 10-year lease. It's actually stated here somewhere that that's what they're looking at. They're looking at a 10-year... Here we go. The chief executive, the Wanneroo Council recently agreed to surrender the existing lease for 60 hectares of the Wattle Avenue site in Nirrumbuk and authorised the chief executive to enter negotiations. This is the key word, negotiations, with the club for a new 10-year lease. So they haven't got this lease yet.
Yeah, okay. That's
It's not set in concrete.
Yeah.
Negotiations means that it's not set in concrete. And we all know that with the government, we were being budget conscious, focused. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of this deficit, right? That's what, except if it's an election year. We're going to spend big. Where did we do badly? WA, let's spend heaps there. There's a Labor government in there. We want to make sure we win their votes. So we know that the governments are all full of shit at every level. So till these guys have got it and the ink is dry and it's been written in such a manner that it's protected, because you know what's going to happen. The housing's just about on top of the joint.
Yeah, it is getting close. Yeah.
It's getting ridiculously close. So this is interesting. It's interesting. Obviously, if they get the lease, then they're not going to want competition, right? Especially with a company that's going to throw literally hundreds of millions of dollars to, make a Hollywood place. But if they don't, you can see the writing on the wall. It's going to happen. So anyway, I just thought I'd.
No, that's a good way to kick off the podcast. To be honest,
while we're on the Mark McGowan bad decisions, right?
Yep.
For those of you that follow the real estate market, you'd know that in the last 3 months, WA's hit another 4% drop in average house prices. This hasn't affected the really expensive houses. They're actually getting more expensive.
Yeah, I've seen that.
This has affected the middle of the road. And he just announced today that, and this breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Belmont Park, right? Where the old burnout pad, where we used to have the Western Nationals car show.
Oh,
right?
yes, yeah.
Right. It's going to be all apartments.
Oh.
I know. That's what we need. More apartments. We need more burnout pads. It's obvious. You're an idiot, McGowan. You're an idiot. And once again, Asian investors, you know. So they got this plan that they're going to... apparently the population of Perth by 2040, okay, it's only, 22 years away, it's going to be 5 million. We're going to double.
Yeah.
All right? I don't know if you've noticed, Mark, but people are leaving WA. That's why the housing price is down. And most of the places in the city are owned by Chinese investors, and they're vacant anyway. So they're not even on the market for lease or for sale, or. So, yeah, more burnout pads, mate. Leave the burnout pad there at Belmont Park. That's what you should be doing. You should be reinstating it. It should be Speedway Track 2, seeing as you're going to have to get rid of the one in Kwinana. So, anyway.
Speaking of China and Chinese investment, we've had 2 Formula One races since our last podcast.
How good's Formula One been?
It has been awesome. I've really enjoyed my Formula One in the last 2 races. So we'll just cover off on China first. So the China race, Daniel Ricciardo. I just want to close off on a couple of points here. Made 3 passes on the last 6 laps. They were Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel, and Valtteri Bottas.
He was going hell for leather.
Yeah.
He proved himself. He is one of those. He's in the top 3. There's no ifs or buts.
Yeah.
No ifs or buts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now this has had a roll-on effect. I'll let you
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I mean, the talking point probably out of that race was Verstappen taking out Vettel on lap 43. Luckily, both of them were able to continue on, but Max took himself out of a podium contention there, and obviously Sebastian as well. So, and got a 10-second penalty as well for that. It was a bit disappointed to see Brendan Hartley got taken out by his teammate Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rossos.
Yeah, now this seems to be a
ongoing. It must be something with the Toro Rosso Red Bull.
Well, it was qualifying at the next race, yeah?
Yeah.
Nearly had a 300 kilometre an hour incident.
Yeah. Anyway, an honourable mention to Lance Stroll as well. He passed 6 cars on the first lap. It was a really awesome visual. You can go on YouTube and watch that, actually, in-car footage from Lance Stroll's car.
And, mate, at the end of the race, we got to see the shoey. We got some memorable quotes out of...
We got some awesome quotes out of that.
out of Daniel.
Holy Testicle Tuesday. And lick the stamp and send it. That's going to be one of my favourites, I reckon. So, yeah, look, given that Daniel had a turbocharger failure during practice, it was still a good result for him.
Was there any penalties associated with that?
No. So we moved on to Baku 2 weeks later, and we kind of had a role reversal there. We got Sebastian Vettel got pole position. He was 2/10 quicker than Lewis, so the Ferraris were on. We had mayhem at the start of the race with Kimi and Ocon colliding at the first corner, and Alonso got caught up with Sergio. That was kind of had a flow-on effect. There was a fair bit of debris on the track, and I think caused a bit of drama right throughout the race. This war that erupted between the two Red Bull cars really started from lap 6 and went right through to lap, I think, 43 or 39 or whatever, or lap 40, whenever they came together. So we saw them banging wheels consistently through the race.
Mate, this started in China.
Yeah.
Right? At the end of that race, he's up for contract renewal. Okay? The rumour is that he's had offers from both Ferrari and from Mercedes. Okay? He would have turned around and said, listen, but the reality is I'm the better driver. I've proven it time and time again. Right? I can drive around this schmuck any day of the week. So you guys want me to stay, I've got to be the number one driver. Now, we've seen this before with this team, haven't we, with Webber? Right? He went through all of this crap. So I reckon that was the beginning of it, because they would have told... they would have told Verstappen, listen, there's going to be some changes. You might become the number 2 driver, and he wouldn't have been happy about that.
Well, look, I mean, Helmut Marko has always had the philosophy that... Look, I mean, they've gone on to say that their philosophy is no team orders, but if we look back in history, that is flawed,
mate,
that discussion.
Weber, right, was definitely 100% in championship contention, and he had it taken out by them, right? And he has got... There's no love lost there in him telling the story about how it went down, So that's bullshit. The reality is that team needs to make a decision. And this is the thing, like the obvious choice is Ferrari. Obviously, we've been banging that drum since before the podcast even existed.
That's
okay?
right. Yeah.
So that's the obvious choice. But what you've got to think as a driver, I mean, he's not young. Okay, so he's only got a limited amount of years left. The rule changes. You got the Yanks, the NASCAR boys there running the show. They want it to be louder.
They do.
Right. So, I don't know, GM might be fostering a team or something. Be some down south.
An LS team.
Yeah,
an LS.
LS powered Formula
Sorry, an
1.
Ecotech team.
Ecotech. Nang, nang, nang. Anyway, they want it to be louder. All these rule changes. What he's got to think about is who is going to adapt to these new rules the quickest. Now, if you think about this, if you're Ferrari or you're Mercedes, yes, you might have billions of dollars of money available to you to develop these new combinations, right? But you're still stuck with the Ferrari engine, or you're still stuck with the Mercedes engine.
Yeah.
Whereas Red Bull, they can go to whoever. So if they see that engine's outperforming, they've got the option there to go, well, you know what? this new rule strategy, these guys seem to be a better engine supplier if you can negotiate a deal with them. But if you end up in a team and they just can't get it together, and we've seen that over the years, naturally aspirated 10-cylinder, 8-cylinder, you know what I mean? Like some teams just get on top of it and they make it happen real fast. Mercedes did. They had a leapfrog. A massive leapfrog for a long time there. And you can argue, oh, well, Hamilton's a better driver. He had a better car, you know what I mean? Regardless of whether he's a better driver or not. Maybe he is, but he had a better car than everyone else. The power plant made more power, made better average power. It just worked better. The whole thing just worked together. So this is the thing Daniel's got to think about. He's got to position himself in the ideal situation, you know? So, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we'd all like to see him. And I'm sure his parents, his grandparents would like to see him behind the wheel of a Ferrari. It's beautiful. Be absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain romance to that story, but I think for that to happen, I can't see... Ferrari do play team orders, there's no doubt about it. I think Sebastian's got to go for that to happen.
Oh, look, you don't know what's around the corner. I mean... You know, you don't know if the old school philosophy still exists. The old school philosophy was if you had an Italian in the car, he was the number one driver. You know, so I don't know. It's we're just going to have to wait and see. I think that this has actually made the championship even more exciting.
I think it has too.
It's sad that you know what happened to two cars coming together.
Yeah,
terrible. You know, but it really it's made us all go, okay, what's going to happen next?
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, the outcome of that race, we saw the two Red Bulls got together on lap 40. Now, since yesterday, last night, the racing stewards from that race have reprimanded both drivers, and this was their statement. Both drivers contributed to the collision. The driver of car 33 made two moves, both which were relatively minor. The driver of the number 3 car, Ricciardo, admitted he left his move to the overtake on the left too late. It was obvious to the stewards that although the incident had its origins in the moves by car 33, the driver of car 3 also contributed to the incident. Both drivers expressed regret about their respective contributions to the incident during the stewards' hearing. So that was overnight. So reprimand doesn't mean any points, doesn't mean any penalties. However, if they're to get 3 reprimands during the year, they will. So, and I think they've been forced to apologise to Christian Horner and the rest of the team as well.
And now you're going to force me to talk about V8 supercars.
I just wanted to touch quickly on Brendan Hartley. I know we've been talking about him a bit. He's a New Zealander, but he became the first New Zealander to score a Formula 1 point since 1976, which was Chris Amon. So there you go, some interesting facts there. Also, 8 podiums from Sergio Perez has made him the most successful Mexican driver.
Was there another one?
There was, and I don't know who it is, but yeah, there you go.
You're going to have to get the research team onto that one, Nick.
I will. V8 supercars, Phillip Island.
Oh,
it
God.
was... Look, Scott McLaughlin
gloat about it.
He got the double header. But there was a lot. Look at this. We won't carry on too much about that. The interesting thing that I took away from Phillip Island was team orders. We've just been finished talking about team orders. Perfectly legal in Formula 1. However, in V8 supercars, highly illegal. And I will read the rules as they stand. It is not permitted for any sponsor, supplier, entity, related entity, including an automobile manufacturer, importer, or their representative, to impose or seek to impose team orders on any team. Now, we can go through and read the transcripts, but it was fairly clear that Shane van Gisbergen had thoughts. Well, he felt that Craig Lowndes was faster than him, so he got onto his team boss and said, "Let Lowndes go around me and go after Rick Kelly. If he can't get the move done, I want my spot back." Now, as it turned out, that didn't happen. Lowndes did agree to it, went around him, couldn't get the move done on Rick Kelly, and eventually on the last lap did relinquish his position back to Shane van Gisbergen. Now, there's an investigation to this at the moment.
Is CSI involved?
Oh, I don't know, but the transcripts are there. I'm not going to read the transcript out. You can go to the V8 Supercar website. The full transcripts are there, and it's fairly clear what they were imposing on doing in what they were trying to do. However, I mean, I don't have an issue with that at all. I think that's very smart.
I think
thing
that
to
what
do.
needs to happen here is that the rules need to change, right? And the only thing you need to worry about is when there's undue and excessive blocking.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? If they want to shuffle it around, let's look at the history of the whole touring car deal in Australia. Peter Brock jumping in a car without a windscreen. You know what I mean?
You used to be able to change cars as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Get yourself into a car that was in a better position.
And sort of stuff goes on all the time. At the end of the day, the V8 supercars, and they are V8 supercars now that the V6 turbo program is, rest in peace.
Well, yeah, it's not looking good for the V6 turbo.
So what they really need to do is they need to scrap the whole bracket.
Yeah,
it needs to go. We need like a British touring car series here. Way more exciting to watch. A million overtaking. How do these? And I'm going to call them what they are: idiots, right? From Tiga or supercars, whoever the governing body that makes these rules up. How do you expect these people to race each other and overtake each other if they've got exactly the same cars? It's just going to be follow the leader. You need to have like the old what made Bathurst great, what made the old touring car championship. What was so exciting about it was the fact that you had so many different possible engine and body combinations, that some were fast on the straights, some were fast on the corners, some suited some tracks, some suited other tracks. So you had the possibility for overtaking. Now you've got them all the same. They actually have to. I've been told by one of the engine development companies that they've got this box with RPM and torque and horsepower, and you have to design the engine combination so that it fits within that criteria.
This is ridiculous.
It is. Really? It's pathetic. It's stupid. If they allowed them to take their natural course, so you've got the 5-litre pushrod engines versus the overhead cam engines, etc., you'd end up with engines that have got completely different torque curves or, whatever, and it might actually make it exciting. Yeah. But right now, it's just a joke. I mean, that's why the popularity of, turbo diesel utes racing each other and off-road trucks jumping over fake jumps, and it really is like the biggest circus sack in Australia. Definitely. Even bigger than the Derby.
Yeah.
And you know what? The crowd numbers will prove it. The crowd numbers will prove it.
Well, I'll be there on Sunday anyway. For those of you who don't know, the touring cars come to Perth this week, the V8 Supercar Series. Just wanted to touch on as well, Fabian Coulthard got a fair rap over the knuckles for his wing being out of spec on the Saturday race. Had to start the race from the rear of the grid.
Now, once again, right, this is why I think they're all dickheads. How can you tell someone that's the maximum amount of wing angle you can run? What? That's a dumb rule. It's like the diff ratios.
Yeah.
They're fixed diff ratios for certain tracks. What's the engineer's job? What is he, like glorified wheel aligner?
Yeah, well, there is no... Yeah, that's really
actually,
exactly
the wheel
right.
alignment's even got to be within spec for certain...
that's correct, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, come on, boys.
One of the biggest talking points from this race was Jamie Whincup's pit lane speed indiscretion, and he fessed up to it, and he was issued a 30-second penalty. He turned it off too early. There was a number of cones on the exit of pit lane, and he turned it off at the first cone. Supposed to turn it off at the second cone. He immediately turned it back on again, but it was enough to get him over the 40k limit, and copped the 30-second penalty. That really hurt his race on the Saturday.
So, a bit of advice, mate. Watch the cones.
Yep, and watch the birds as well. James Courtney, a bit of a talking point there, gave the bird to old Greg Murphy. I don't reckon it was aimed at Greg Murphy. I think it was an in jest to Adrian Burgess. But anyway, I thought it was a bit of light-hearted banter. And the splitter issues continue over on the new ZB Commodore.
The new... Okay, I can't... ZB and new in the same sentence doesn't work.
ZB Fairlane. So, yeah, they had massive
Mazda
issues.
6. Just call it a Mazda 6, all right? From now on, it's going to be referred to as a Mazda 6.
I've got a test drive one soon, actually. So, they had massive problems, especially over at BJR with their shutter, and they've actually damaged a number of front splitters. So
you're test driving a ZB or a Mazda 6?
ZB.
ZB.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, on to more exciting racing.
The MotoGP look, I mean, much as I love the US, I think it's great that we've moved on to the US races are kind of over, because the time difference is just killing me. So,
watching the races.
Well, MotoGP,
Yeah.
was on it at God, that was an ungodly hour, that one. I actually started watching it, then I turned it off, and I actually managed to watch a replay over the internet.
You know,
which was
it's
excellent.
funny that you complain about this, because my typical day now, right, the way it goes is that I get home from work, have dinner. My wife always has dinner prepared, right? And then fall asleep on the couch, right? And then eventually I find my way to bed. I'm not sure. There's something mysterious that happens during the course of the night that I make it from the couch to the bed somehow. And at 3:30, Nicholas wakes up, wants a feed. So I get up, I feed him. I then go to work.
Do you really?
I do, because I get 3 hours of peace with no one ringing me on the
Oh,
phone.
yeah, well, that's a good point.
No one coming in to say good day.
Yeah, how you going?
Right? And then I go, oh. Not sure what happened then.
No,
Bit
we're
of a
right.
technical
Yeah.
issue. Then I go home and try to time it so that I get the 7:30 feed in,
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's pretty good.
have a shower, get changed, go back to work.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so, and the thing you got to realise is most of my parts, or practically all of my parts now, come direct from the US. So I have to sort of operate between that midnight. and
Make your phone calls.
Yeah,
and whatnot.
yeah.
of course.
Emails, phone calls, etc.
Oh, that's fair enough.
So yeah, listening to you whinging about watching one race,
Sorry, yeah.
one race. Anyway, Marc Marquez owns this track. No
does,
ifs, no
yeah,
buts.
yeah,
They should call it
The Marc Marquez.
track.
Fair enough. I thought Andre Iannone had a good crack at him there. I mean, it only lasted a few metres, but...
You know, that pass, right, reminded me of Iannone a few years ago when I nicknamed him Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, no. Interesting thing out of the race, Jack Miller later came out and said he's actually sustained a shoulder injury riding mountain bikes in California a few days earlier. So, and then he crashed in the final practice, so he had to use the second bike for Q1. So Jack Miller, I think, finished 16th. I've got the results here.
Now, Zarco, KTM,
9th, sorry. What am I saying?
that's all. Is that a good move?
I really don't know, but I know that team that he's leaving is also changing the KTM as well at the end of the year.
It just seems like, you know, he's nearly there. You know what I mean? You'd say he's in the top 4, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely.
No ifs or buts, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know if that's a. We'll see. I mean, it is early days for his career.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll see what happens. Looking forward to the next round.
Yep. Championships really tightened up in MotoGP.
Yep.
There's only it's a very slight point advantage to
Dovizioso's in the
1
lead,
point
1
ahead
point.
of Marquez. Then we got on 41 points Maverick Vinales, Carl Crutchlow on 38 points, Johan Zarco on 38, and Andre Iannone on 31, and Rossi back there on 29. So I mean, all those guys are in this. This is wide open.
Oh yeah, for sure. This early in the season.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You kind of, I think you find that these guys get into a bit of a flow a bit later on into the season. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But I mean, you know, Marquez he took that from wire to wire.
Yeah,
it wasn't really a competition.
Mm.
And you know, I think it'd be good to see Iannone up there. You know, but Suzuki's a relatively new team.
Yeah,
They had a big break, so they'll just keep chipping away.
Yeah.
It'll be good. And I think it's a credit to all the manufacturers how close it really is. When you consider how many years of development. You know, KTM's another one that's relatively new.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
So good to see you. Look forward to the next race. So drag racing.
Yeah,
something that I want to talk about.
Oh, sorry. The Formula One took your... There was a heap of drag racing that's happened over the 2 weeks that we've been in between podcasts. So we had the Spring Nationals at Royal Purple Raceway in Texas, and we also had the 4-wide Nationals. That's the NGK version in Vegas, where we had Pro Mod as well. Had Pro Mod at both events. So we saw Erica Enders, that we alluded to in the podcast before. She debuted her Pro Mod car. Unfortunately, did not qualify.
Yeah, you get that. Anyway, Top Fuel, Brittany,
over Terry
Yes.
McMillan. This is the Spring Nationals. It was her first win for the season.
Yes.
Funny car, we had J.R. Todd over Robert Height. Robert Height was actually the top qualifier, and J.R. Todd got the job done from number 10. That was awesome.
Yeah, but, you can see there the strength of the Force team. That's impressive. 2 cars in the finals in 2 different categories.
Yeah. Unfortunately, John failed to qualify this meet, so that was the interesting one out of that. And we also had at this meet, Dale Worsham has unfortunately packed up his car until they can secure further sponsorship. So at this stage, they are packed up indefinitely.
And Jim Whiteley
in his supercharged Camaro over Rick Horde, his turbo Corvette. And I want to talk about Rick Horde a bit later on. I've added these. They're not in your notes. Well, they are in the notes that I printed out for you. But we'll talk about that a bit later.
I wanted to ask you, have you got a dot matrix printer? Dot matrix printer. That's what's going on here.
No, that's I've tried numerous fonts and it prints out like this.
Well, at least I can read these bits.
Yeah.
Because on mine, so for those of you listening in, what it is that on the notes it's got the
highlighted yellow and
the transcript from the team radios.
Shane Van Gisbergen.
And I can't see it because it's just a black line where he's highlighted it. But anyway,
never mind.
So I don't know if you know or not, but Jim Whiteley is connected to Zapier.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. They I can't remember how it works, but the B&J guys, I believe, look after that car.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So good to see him get up.
Yeah, he had a win over Rick Horde. Anyway, we moved over to the 4-wide Nationals at Las Vegas, and Jose Gonzalez. This was the final in Pro Mod. Let's just go through this. It was Jose Gonzalez, turbo car, against Stevie Fast, supercharged car, against Ricky Smith, nitrous car, against Brandon Snyder, another supercharged car. It was wasn't the quickest field going around, but it was the parity issue, I think, may have gone away.
There is no issue.
Yep.
This is the great thing about Pro Mod. Just like the old IHRA 815 cube Pro Stock, it's not so much about how much power you're making. It's about whether you can get it down on the track or not. You know, they often adjust rules before they need to.
Yeah.
You know, and the great thing about this class now is because there's so many really talented people in terms of the engineering side of it, like Al Billis and Chuck Ford and so on, making all these fantastic components, that when there is a rule change, they find a way to step up.
Yeah.
You know? So, it really is the class to watch at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, definitely.
But unfortunately, our man Stevie Fast...
Yeah, he's licked the wall a few times in that final. He's gone left, right, and left again. So it was, the other way around. But he's hit that wall pretty hard. He was in hospital overnight and made this on social media, this statement. I was discharged from the hospital early this morning following an accident on the top end during the finals yesterday at ZMAX. My CAT scan and x-rays have come back good. I'm just beat up and sore. Thank you all for your thoughts and prayers. We finished second, but our horse is wounded. KTR and Bahrain 1 will be back. It was pretty beat up, his car.
Yeah.
Pretty beat up. Yeah, so I think there was a bit of a fire there as well, right at the end when it hit the wall the third time. So,
yeah, well, look, he's no stranger to crashing and having the car back together in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's true.
When
That's
the shadow
true.
went over, when he had the big blowover.
That's correct. Yeah.
They had the new Camaro. It
Yeah.
was almost a seamless transition.
It was, yeah.
And I think he went out and top qualified, didn't he, at the very next meeting?
Yeah,
so,
that's correct. Yeah.
definitely looking forward to seeing him back out on the track. And, everyone out there that is a Stevie Fast fan, you should get on his website and buy some merchandise.
Yeah.
Help the team fund this rebuild.
Yep. In other Pro Mod news, I don't want to dwell on it too long, but I want your thoughts. These aren't in your notes; they're in my notes that I added it in today. But I just want your thoughts on this because you're a door slammer and expert on this sort of stuff.
Oh, I wouldn't say I'm an expert.
Well,
actually, no, I probably am a drip under pressure. But anyway, a retired drip under pressure.
Look, at the four wides, Rick Horde in qualifying ran 260 mile an hour. So that's a record for Pro Mod. That's actually been disallowed because, as we know, after a record run, the NHRA requests a full examination. Now, Rick has complied with the full examination and even showed him the run data from the data logger. However, he was asked for a hard copy data file, which he has denied them access to that information, claiming that he feels that that's his intellectual property.
I'll just fill you in on a couple of things with mile an hour, all right? We have a very, very primitive system of measuring mile an hour in drag racing. Okay, for those of you that don't follow drag racing, the way it works is that along the track we have a series of, light rays with receivers. Yep. When the beam of light is broken, it triggers the timing system. So as you see the cars go into stage, they break the first beam, that turns on the first bulb. They break the second beam, that turns on the second bulb. The tree counts down, the car takes off. As soon as the tyre rolls out of the beam, it activates the timer. So the car's actually moving before the timer starts.
Yeah.
Right? Then when you get to 60 foot, breaks the beam. Then 330, there's usually a speed recorded at some point. So there's usually between 30 and 60 feet. I can't remember the exact measurement.
I think it's 30.
30.
Yeah.
Okay. So it used to be 60, I believe. I believe on the finish line it was actually 30 before the finish line and 30 after back in the old days, but it's probably changed. Nonetheless, you're measuring an average between 2 points. Okay. The thing is, though, where the beam is and where the front end of the car is, so whether you break the beam with the tyre or the nose of the car, right, has always been a point of contention. Okay, now you're seeing the cars now, like radial cars, for example, where they're just about covering the whole track with the front wheels in the air, right? So there's been a lot of talk about this little trick that you do, particularly with the torque converter cars. Okay, so what you do is you like the rules in Australia, and I'm not 100% sure on the NHRA rules. The rules in Australia say that you're allowed to activate the lockup once, right, and only once, and only activate it, right? So what some teams have done, which is illegal, it's as simple as that, it's illegal, is that they activate the lockup at some point in the track, right, and then just before the finish line, they release the lockup. Okay, now the car is still accelerating, right? Because the torque converter's still going to, put drive to the back wheels. But what it does is it dips the nose of the car.
Oh, okay.
So you can go through, if you set your ride height right, you've got to play with it to get it at that, point. You'll go through, you'll break the beam with the tyre, the first beam, and then the second beam, the nose will dip, and you'll break it. Now, these cars run a 40-inch overhang, right? So 40 inches is 3 feet and 4 inches.
Yep.
So now your 30-foot measuring point has been reduced, and it makes a ridiculously faster mile an hour because you're not measuring 30 feet anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You're measuring 26 points.
26 and a half, yeah.
Yeah, and that makes a dramatic a dramatic difference. So really what the NHRA, ANDRA, IHRA, Thunder, everyone needs to do it, right? Simple, basic, piss off that system and put a radar trap at the end of the track.
Yeah. Yep.
It's as simple as that. Then the only thing you can cheat is if you're losing or winning by inches, and the other guy's unfortunate that his car's set up in such a way that it breaks the beam, at this point, and yours breaks it at a higher point, which really comes down to setup. Because theoretically, if the other guy's breaking the beam with his tyre at the top end of the track, and you're breaking it with your nose or that plate that they often
extension.
Run. The what?
The pecker extension.
Pecker extension. Okay, I've never heard it.
That's the duck.
Is it?
The duck. The
pecker extension. Okay. All right, whatever.
Bit childish.
Whatever it is. Anyway, if you time it right, you could potentially win even though you've lost. But, I guess it is what it is. But really, using the lights, it's so primitive. I mean, it's 2018, fellas.
Yeah.
There's like a radar at every corner, traffic lights now, so I'm sure we can get one down the track. We've got that high-tech auto shut-off system that has made... and I'll tell you, I'm not real happy with it either, I'll be honest with you. It's made a lot of drivers lazy, as is in the... who did the video? Was it Jerry Pickle? Or? Tim McCamus.
Tim McCamus, yeah.
Right? So the auto shut-off, it's got a beam across the track. As soon as you pass that, it shuts the motor, opens the chutes, blah, 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 does all that stuff. I have a problem with that because I've always left my motor running, driven around everyone in the car park that ends up at the end. And part of the reason I do that is because I can't afford to change the exhaust valves. And if you let the motor run for a little bit, it takes any heat that's in the exhaust valves out, because the only time the valves actually lose their heat is when they touch the seat.
Yeah, okay,
right?
Yeah, of course.
So if you shut the motor down and the valves open, it's not really a good thing. But I was discussing this with Brian from Outlaws the other day, because I said to him, if I go back to Door Slammer, I'm going to fit that stupid system on there, because some other idiot forgot to shut their motor down or something, you know what I mean? At the end of the day, if your chutes work, right, then the car's going to stop, regardless of whether the driver does it or an automated system, automated system, So I don't, I think you're rewarding bad drivers. But anyway, nonetheless, he said, no, just leave the fuel shut off on, and that'll, and just let it coast around the corner. The engine's still turning. So I think he might be right, but I'm wondering whether that's part of the auto shut-off, that it shuts the fuel off as well. I don't know. I haven't got one. I don't want to get one.
Fair enough.
I'm going to try and stay away from classes that require it. Anyway.
Getting back to record, I mean, just to cover off there, it was technical. It was basically tune-up data that he didn't want to relinquish to the NHRA.
Yeah, but if he's doing something like that and they didn't spot it, I mean, the people that are doing it, I know that the rules people have looked at their data and haven't picked up on it because they're idiots, basically.
Yeah, but let's just say he believes that's his tech, that's intellectual property. Who are the NHRA going to share it with? They're not going to share it with a competitor.
It's regardless. Okay, if you're entering into that bracket to run. Okay, you have to abide by the rules. If the rules say that they get a copy, that's the way it is. But the thing is, they're probably getting a copy because no one there on the day was smart enough to go, was he cheating or not? It just seemed like, like the conditions weren't there for that run. But you can run mile an hour. If you set your car up to run mile an hour, you got to understand that drag racing is basically... very simple physics. You've got a mass, it's a given weight, and you're accelerating it for a given distance. Now, there's this energy formula that basically, so picture it this way: a mass traveling at a velocity is a given amount of kinetic energy. Yeah, right. It's there. It's that has got now that energy had to get there somehow, right? And it's gotten there through you burning methanol at the other end of the car and driving it through there, right? Now, that energy that you're creating with the engine, that energy over time is the amount of work that you've done, right? And you've applied that work on the mass, and that mass has ended up with a terminal velocity, right? And that's how that energy's gotten there. You've gotten this heavy weight, and you've got it up to this speed. So the physics behind it say that if you do the same amount of energy over a longer period of time, you'll do more work, right? So if you have that energy, so if you run a slower ET, right, but you're still making all that power, you've done more work. You look at the other side of the formula, the mass times the velocity. Well, the mass is the same, so what's going to change? The velocity is going to get faster.
Yep.
So if you do you can actually set your car up to do a slow ET, but a fast mile an hour.
Yeah.
Alternatively, you could just cheat. And that'll give you a fast mile an hour. We've seen it happen here, and I'm sure it happens all around the world. You don't pay crew chiefs a lot of money to not find a way of cheating, really. I mean, it might be legal today, but it might be... The first guy came out with traction control in motor racing. At the time, there probably wasn't a rule stopping it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they made it illegal. And nowadays, I don't even think half the rule makers worry about whether you got traction control or not because it's so hard to police.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So this is no different. I could look at the data, right, whether it's NHRA or IHRA, Thunder, whatever, and I can see what's going on. But I'm unique in the fact that I've done the tuning, the chassis tuning, the transmission building, the torque converter building. I understand what the RPM trace needs to look like. I can see the difference between a clutch locking up and a gear shift. And that's only because I've been exposed to so many different areas of the car. And there's other people like me, but they're never going to get guys like us to check the data because they know that half the racers that are racing are going to, nah, sorry, mate, that's illegal. No, you can't have one of them. Nah, that's too close to this. I don't know.
Well, he relinquished the data. The data he relinquished, but he didn't relinquish the tune-up. Anyway, this will pan out in the coming days. I think they are working towards a solution, the record team and the NHRA, as we speak.
Was it a turbo car?
Yes.
Okay,
Corvette.
so you know what they're looking for?
No.
The boost.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're limited boost. They're 38 pounds limited boost, right? So the boost, number one. Number two, the intake temperature.
Yep.
Right? Because they're not intercooled.
But the data, they had access to the data. There's no discrepancy.
Yeah,
there.
but hang on. Seeing the data, right, from the race pack, okay, where I can poke a hole in one of the sensor lines or manipulate it, isn't the same as seeing the tune-up data. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
But, I do know what you mean, and that's where they've come unstuck here. But how do we work around that then? We need to... Isn't the tune-up data, don't you think
NHRA, no, I don't think so. I think that they need to be a professional organisation and make sure that no one else ever gets to see that data.
Oh, I'm sure they wouldn't. I'm sure they wouldn't disclose that data to a competitor.
But as far as I'm concerned, the competitor has to relinquish it. If they don't want to relinquish it, mate, there is a classic example of this sort of thing going on in NASCAR. Now, I forget the guy's name. He's one of the commentators now, or his brother's one of the commentators now in NASCAR. And basically, he had nitrous oxide on his car. Okay, so he had a nitrous bottle stitched into his driving suit leg. And once he got the car up to speed, he just cracked the bottle open a little bit and made the air a bit nicer. and went out there and qualified really well, a lot higher than he would normally qualify. And that made everyone go, what the hell, How did he get there? What's going on? So Bill France, I think, is the guy that owns NASCAR. He basically gave him the ultimatum. He said, listen, you got two choices, right? One is you tell me what you're doing, right? And we don't disqualify you, but you start rear of grid. The other one is we strip the car. Even if we don't find it, you won't have enough time to put the car back together. And that's the kind of... You've got to have that kind of attitude. It's like, I'm the governing body. We're doing this my way or the highway. The thing is, though, just like in football, soccer, etc., you've got to have fairness in the umpiring. Right? So you can't have one team attacked and then another team they just turn a blind eye to. And that, unfortunately... I don't know about the NHRA, but certainly in Australia, I've seen that over and over and over again, where they'll let, teams... I mean, look, the Thunder 400 rules actually states that regardless of if another team is running a particular body style, you may not necessarily be allowed to run it.
Yeah.
So they've written this... what's the word I'm looking for here? It's not racism. It's not sexism. Dragism. They've written this really biased rule that basically says, well, we don't care.
Yeah.
We're going to run it how we want, which is dumb. You can't have that. How's that going to bring people into the sport?
Yeah.
So, look, I reckon he's got to relinquish it. It's as simple as that.
Yep. Anyway, we'll see how that one pans out.
And the other thing is, why is he hiding it?
He believes he doesn't need to hand it over.
On what premise?
It's his intellectual property.
Whatever.
All our war has broken. Radial promoters have gone to war.
Radial promoters have gone to war. You make it sound like there's thousands of them. There's like two.
There's three of them. There's
actually
two.
There's
two.
two.
Yeah, there's two. You're right.
Because radial racing's that big.
I know. Anyway, look, it started a couple of weeks ago with the Outlaw Streetcar reunion held at Tulsa Park, where we had... This is how interested Simon is in this discussion. Anyway, I'll set the table. I will set the table. So this event is run by Tyler Crosno and Mark Samples. They're also known as Southern Speed Promotions. Tyler's the son of the late Tim Crosno, and he's a seasoned track prep and electronics guru, and he's also a race promoter. So Tyler, at the Outlaw Streetcar reunion, he held Radial versus the World, Limited Drag Race Radial, Ultra Street, MX235, X275, 28-inch, no time recorded, and here's the kicker, Midwest, the Pro Mod Series.
Yeah, because he needed some cars that people wanted to watch.
There was 30 cars that entered. Now, this was...
The whole event?
No. But look, this was promoted by Tyler, and also it was backed by Keith Haney. So the Duck has taken exception to this and feels like... by bringing in a Pro Mod as a separate series to a Radial meet, it waters down Radial versus the World. Let's just have a listen to the Duck, what he had to say.
Am I a little irritated? Yeah, I'm irritated. So let me go ahead and just tell you why. So... I have people, Monty Miko, 3 or 4 years ago, piggybacked the out of my shit to be able to put on this small tire race. Then I get Tyler Crossbolt there, and he piggybacked the shit out of my race. It's supposed to be an all radial race, is what it was supposed to be. Here comes Keith Haney. You can barely see the little sawed off midget, and all of a sudden now, Midwest Pro Mod Series. No, it's a name that you made, and then you piggyback the and just hop right on the back of somebody who's got a successful race to throw your shit in there and really it all up. I went and bought 2 tickets for me and Stephanie to fly to Oklahoma, and you know what? I called up Haney to find out, hey, where are you gonna be at, buddy, when I get there? He thinks he's Tiger Woods. That Florida, in the middle of his radial race, he's in Florida playing Tiger Woods with some mother or something. He's 150 years old. He's not at the track where he's supposed to be after he's supposed to promote his shit that he's supposed to do. Ferris made the Pro Mods look stupid as If I had a Pro Mod from the Midwest and I was in that race there and I saw that stock Corvette off the showroom floor with no wheelie bars run faster than my shit, I'd have packed up my shit and got the out of there already anyway.
All right, so that was the Duck. Now let's just have a listen to Keith Haney's response to all of this.
I don't get your crybaby is what I don't get. I just don't get it. And you just mad that all the Pro Mods, there was 33 on the property. 33. That's for the Midwest guys, no matter how you say it. So, Donald, if you're on here, we'd like to know why you're so and I played that song for you the other day when this all started. I want to know why you're so on the fact that Tyler was smart enough, educated enough to be able to figure out the math and figure out, you know what? That Midwest Pro Mod Series is going to make me some money. And you know what it's going to cover up? It's going to cover up some losses in some other areas, I'm sure. That's what a smart businessman does. He says, well, I can make money on this class, and it covers up, but yet I can still keep that class going. So, to me, that's just what you call being smart. He just, again, you know, it's kind of wasting my airspace, but Donald Long just jealous. He just jelly. That's what I call it. Then you got Phil Schuler over there, and Stevie Jackson, them boys over there, want to say that the whatever that Shadow Crap 2.0 is a stock wheelbase and it non-pro mod. Well, it may be a stock wheelbase, perfectly fine, but it's still a freaking pro mod. No matter what you say, it's pro mod. Who built it? It didn't come from the factory. It's a pro mod. It doesn't have factory doors with damn metal or it's a pro mod, no matter how you look at it. So
that was Keith Haney.
You know, I don't often agree with anything that Keith Haney says, but I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, like the duck going on about how the pro mods were made to look stupid by the radial cars. What the duck needs to fess up is, number one, the rules governing what you can and can't do in the pro mod class. This is like Pro Extreme versus Pro Boost.
Yep.
Right? And, you know, and that's the thing. Like, if the guys want to start taking cheap shots at, if the radial guys want to take cheap shots at Pro Mod, then let's look at what the Pro Boost cars run. Because, you know, they're basically very similar rules in terms of the engine, power adders, and so on, C-rotor blowers, etc., etc. And they're 2/10 quicker on go tracks.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? We're going to eventually see a Pro Extreme car running in the 330 sort of range very, very soon, and maybe even in the 320s.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at the PDRA, the Pro Boost cars are actually NHRA legal cars, 1471, limited overdrive, etc., minimum weight, so on. So I think that was a bit of a cheap shot to say that, you know, the radial cars, you know, we're making them look stupid because they're entirely different. The other thing is, too, that the track prep for a radial car is specific to a radial car. So you might be able to run a number with a radial car on a radial track. That's great. But the reality is that that track only suits that type of car. If you go to just a normal NHRA meeting or a normal ANDRA meeting and try and run your radial car, you're going to be whinging about how the track's no good. Well, no, the track's probably very good. It just doesn't suit the radial. So, you know, I don't know. Look, the whole radial thing, I think what scares him is that and this is the thing, like, what makes door slammer racing so good to watch is that if you get through a run and you shake, or, you know, the thing does something, whatever, wheel stands, whatever, you can smack that throttle and carry on, particularly with a blown or a nitrous car, right? Maybe not so much with a turbo car. They lose the wheel speed in the turbo and the run's aborted. Radial car goes up in smoke. That's the end of the run.
Yeah.
You're not gonna there's no pedal fest in radial racing, right? Radial car doesn't hold that perfect balance where it's got all that weight transfer on the rear end, front wheels are in the air, it's got the tyre planted, it doesn't hold it, it can't run fast. It all is like watching a game of mousetrap, you know? And that's sort of not what makes this sport exciting, because you look at Mark Mickey's 362 or his 221, they look boring. They look absolutely boring. And the thing is, you'll be at the edge of your seat with a nitro car in a pedal fest or a door slammer in a pedal fest, right? You watch the crowd, and this is something everyone should do. Watch the crowd when there's a radial race. There's nothing that happens until the scoreboard lights up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't see that with the other classes, and that's where these radial guys are kind of got it wrong. You're waiting for that number. I could put any friggin' number up there.
Yeah.
I could put 1.2 seconds. What are you gonna be in shock, or are you gonna cheer? You know, it doesn't mean the car ran it, you know? So it's a bit of a silly, I don't know. And the thing is that now what we're seeing here is we're seeing the beginning of the end. Because if they start fighting and promoters start going, you know what, we got a good outcome from having those pro mod cars. Maybe the next event you know. And if you get that 2 or 3 cars that are like 2 tenths ahead of everyone else, you know, and you're going to start seeing other guys going, oh, you know, let's just bolt some big tyres on the car.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Look, I think in fairness to Tyler, I don't think he brought too much into the discussion and has moved on. I think the Duck has since, there was another video he put on earlier this week, and he didn't apologise, but I think he's back down from his aggressive stance at this stage. So
no, it's still roof and quarter panels is where it's at.
Yep.
These guys, and Mark Mickey's car is still roof and quarter panels.
Yep.
That's the future. That
Yep.
doesn't matter what tyre. Run whatever tyre you want. You want to put 26-inch bicycle tyres on it? Go for it.
Yep.
Trying to have these classes. I mean, this all started because the guys weren't fast enough. So they went, oh, well, I'm running a 235. Oh, okay. But now they're all $1 million cars. Let's face it. There isn't a car that runs in any of these classes that is a budget build.
No.
It's not like the old days where you got your scat cranked big block with a plate system on it. You know what I mean? Like those days, those days are gone, mate. This is all Bilitos, full Bilitos.
All right, on the limiter. Let's just chuck that in here right now. This week we had a number of footy personalities comment on the surface of Optus Stadium. I don't want to talk about footy. They had the Nitro Circus being held there on the Sunday, which was 1 week prior to the Derby, which was basically a week ago. So a number of football identities had opposition to that and felt that it wasn't appropriate having this sort of event at a footy oval. I got a news flash for those guys. When the AFL foots the bill for a stadium, then they can dictate who runs at those events and who can be there prior to a football game. Now, as it turned out, a number of football commentators were invited to the event and ticked off on it, and they felt that it was the Nitro Circus took the appropriate steps to protect the surface. I don't know if you saw any imagery or some of the video from the Nitro Circus at all. It was basically the whole event was held down on one of the wings. It wasn't even on it was on such a small part of the surface that it wasn't even worth commenting on really in retrospect. So I think those that are in football need to worry about football. Not the Nitro Circus.
I think those that are in football are worrying about out of court settlements for 5 figures.
We had episode 2 of the XY Falcon Hell released on Sunday. A lot of commentary, and I'd really like to thank all these people that are coming to it. I need to talk to you off air. There's been some generous donations once again. So
the Palazzo rang me today.
Oh yeah,
he's going. I'm pumped, boy. I'm pumped.
So I just want to cover off on some of our sponsors that are helping us out. Allfast, that's yourself. Allfast Torque Converters, WA Suspensions, Monster Torque, CRD Nitrous, Taps Race Pipes. And we've also got a number of donations coming in from people that are helping us out with the build as well, which we need to get back to.
Yeah, and we've got a new sponsor because we were let down so badly by Sonax. Now that it's a Warren Buffett company.
Okay.
Yeah, just got bought out.
Really?
Got bought out. Yep. Transmission Specialties Australia. They've come on board, and we will, as soon as I get some time to work on the car. So, for those of you that don't know, and anyone that's been to the workshop does know, the reason that I'm starting at 3 a.m. is because I've got that many transmissions on the go at the moment. It's ridiculous. So we will be doing a build for the Power Glide on this and covering all the transmission specialties components that goes into it. And those components are all available, and their transmissions in Australia now.
Oh, excellent.
There'll be some contact details made available at some point in time. It's a new venture for them, getting into the Australian market. We've always supported their products, but they want to have a good stab at it. And, they're probably one of the industry leaders now with the Power Glide components, and they've got their Turbo 400 stuff coming on board as well. So, it's a good thing. I'm hoping that we're going to get some time to work on it over the next few weeks. Obviously, now we'll be aiming for next season with both the Camry and the XY.
Yep.
And we can't sort of take a break because it just creeps up on you so quickly.
Oh, especially the off season. The off season is one of those seasons that it's not the off season very long. And October where you're racing, so September you need to be ready, and August you need to be finished. So
I thought that I would have a bit of a break transmission wise. And now I've got all the people that are getting ready for next season dropping their transmissions off. So it's anyway.
You're probably going to have an influx of drag week people as well. Drag challenge people.
Yeah, actually, speaking of which, we're actually I've got a couple of transmissions there that we're doing some development work at the moment. Some cool stuff coming out, and a bit excited to be working with these new companies, and that they've chosen us to help them develop and test some of this stuff. So, and we're going to be working with a couple of the drag challenge teams.
Oh, excellent.
So it should be good. I mean, I'd like to get over there myself, but there's just not enough time.
Yeah.
Again, it seems like it's like that every year. So I don't know if you heard, Nick, that the WA Police are looking at some new technology now. They believe that the car chase epidemic, let's call it, has gotten out of control. So they're looking at using the American technique of spinning the cars out, and they also believe that they have some technology that will be able to disable engines from a distance.
Yep.
Now, I'm not sure what that involves. I've got some ideas, right? So I don't know who the acting or the current commissioner is, but, you could try shooting... Chris Dawson. From Dawson's Creek? Yep. Okay, so you could try shooting the engine. That could work. But I'm very interested to see what this electronic device is, because the only thing that I can think of is it's called a shunt, I believe. You would probably remember this from back in the day. So they used it in Ocean's 12 or Ocean's 13 or something, and it's a hypothetical electron blast that disables anything electronic. Now the thing is, I don't think it's directional.
No, I don't think they are.
So and that's the only thing I can think of that could possibly shut a car down, electronically.
Yeah.
If they decide to use it and you're in the vicinity, it's going to smoke.
Yeah,
like everything. Your phone,
yeah,
your car's ECU, the alternator,
the laptop.
Laptop if it's in the car. I'm very interested to see this technology and to try and be near a car chase so I can sue the government.
Hey, speaking of the police department, I've seen them in their new Hyundai. Well, you shouldn't call them Hyundais because they're not branded Hyundais, but there's the Genesis.
Yes.
Yep,
yes.
I've seen them.
Now,
car.
I saw the early inception of this. It'd be 3 years ago.
Yep.
They had one on Murray Street, all dressed up in the WA police livery.
The Genesis.
Oh, it's just branded Genesis. Yeah, so it is a Hyundai then. They're not trying to hide the fact that it's...
No, but there's no brand. I've actually been in one, not the police version, but an Uber version, and it was it's not a bad car, actually.
Yeah. It's not available in V8 as far as I know in Australia, but it is in America. So,
All right, on that note, we will wind this one up. All right, if you're listening to us, you can get us on iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, Facebook, YouTube, Podbean, SoundCloud, and also on Facebook. Now, if you can also you get onto our YouTube channel and subscribe, that would be really great as well. We just need the subscriptions up there. They're a bit down at the moment, the YouTube, but our Facebook page is just ticking along nicely.
YouTube's gone, Nick.
Yeah, it's not looking good for them,
YouTube's like
is
the
it?
taxi industry.
Yep, it's not looking good, is it? But anyway.
Instagram. It's all about Instagram now.
Yeah, we're on Instagram as well. I don't update Instagram as often as I should.
Oh, you need to. You need to be posting something every 30 seconds, Nick. What are you doing?
Yeah, no, it's like every 30 days just about at the moment.
You know, I never get on Facebook, right? Basically, if you go to the office, you'll see the computer is on the All Fast inbox, right? Just so, you know, if we get... Because a lot of people use Facebook to make inquiries for talk converters and so on and so forth. So I'll check it maybe once a day.
Yep.
Maybe I'll go a couple of days without checking it. But you know the little globe thing in the corner to tell you the activity?
Yep.
It was funny today in the afternoon when I was downloading the notes and printing them out. I scrolled through the windows that were open and the Facebook one was open. And the little globe had a little 2 next to it. Right, normally it's got 99 plus. Right?
You've rolled it over.
I was thinking, gee, there wasn't much going on out there in the Facebook world. Now, do you think that that's because everyone's a bit nervous about what's been happening, the data being shared?
It is a worry. I think there's a lot of people getting off. There is a lot of people getting off.
I'm sure there's a lot of people getting off, but what about Facebook? God.
Yeah, it's of certain concern, no doubt about that.
I think that I believe that it was never really a good thing, you know, because see, there's this thing that the study that's been done recently, and it's with regards to so what they did was they compared the reaction that you get when you take drugs or drink alcohol or post something on social media and get a like, right? So your body reacts the same way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So when you get a bit of a buzz, you know, just like if you have a drink or you pop some pills or whatever. Okay, endorphins, dopamines, blah blah blah. Well, I don't know technical terms, but what they're saying is that they don't let you do the alcohol until you're 18 because when you're under 18. Because you get that buzz, chances are you're just going to go and have some more. You don't understand self-control. I think Facebook, falls into that realm, and maybe we should have like a Facebook Anonymous, social media Anonymous or something. I don't know.
What worries me about Facebook is the amount of young kids getting onto it, and I don't, I might...
But, it's funny because they can't talk to each other face to face.
No, that's right.
I've found it that, if I get a millennial come in to buy a talk converter, they like to do the whole deal without actually ever seeing you.
Yeah.
They'll send someone else to pick it up.
Yeah.
And be like, don't you want to know what you...
Yeah, I know. I can imagine in your industry you'd get a lot of those sort of people.
They just don't. They're very intimidated face to face.
Yeah,
it's quite funny because that's when you sort of get the hey, listen, you should run this shock or you should do this or whereas it's like okay, you've got the high store now. Do you know what to do with it? What's the next step? And if you're going to get a workshop to do the work, like to install it, then you should probably get them to organise it too, so that you end up with the right one.
Yeah.
But I've noticed I've gone up to people in cafes where there's a big group and they're out for a coffee and no one's talking to each other, and I've tapped them on the shoulder and gone, hey, are you guys having a conversation on Messenger? Because you could have done that at home. You didn't need to all meet.
It's a sad world we're living in, isn't it? All right, on that note, we'll wind this one up. Simon, thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Nick.
All right, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
See you on the streets.
See yous.
Talk and Power stresses all characters and events on this podcast, even those based on real people, are entirely fictional. All celebrity voices are impersonated poorly. We do not encourage street racing or the use of turbochargers.